started. So let's start off with a revision question today. So last week, we only got chance to practice this rule, and I'm circling it here for you. And these rules are mainly used for non-right angle triangles. And the sine rule, you can use it, or you have permission to use it if the examiner gives you the length of two sides and an angle is opposite to one of the given sides. Or you can also use it if you have any two angles and one side. Right? So the first question, like I said, is just a revision question, right? I want everyone to draw the triangle. I'm gonna put capital L, capital M, and capital N. Remember, capital letters represent angles. Common letters represent sides. Okay, so let me put this as 37 meters. Let's put this as 40 meters, right? Let's call this angle 32 degrees. And the aim of the question is to find this angle here. I'm going to put a question mark. Now, last week, I know I told you all this was a very sensitive topic, meaning that I want you all to work to how much decimal places. If you look back in your notes from last week, how many decimal places were we working with last week? 3. Correct. Now, I want you to do your working to 3 decimal places, but your final answer, you could put that to 2 decimal places, but only at the end of the question, right? Because it's a very sensitive topic. Like if you're off by 0.001 and whatnot, your answer does look significantly different. So anyway, get started on this question, label your triangle, and send the answer for angle capital M. Good luck. Give you 2 minutes to, refresh your memory. This one out. Great. So, common L, common M, and common N. Remember, you have to label it, okay? So, we already mentioned that L is useless. So, cross. You don't have to cross it out, but, it makes it easier for me to remember that, hey, we're not using L. So we're keeping the M's and the N. So I like to go in alphabetical order. Remember, according to the formula, the common letters go on top and sign of the capital version goes underneath. Okay? So it's M on sign capital M is equal to N divided by sign capital N. Right? Common letters represent sides, capital letters represent angles. So let's substitute in the values, and then whatever we could work out, we work out on the calculator, and then we could what? Cross multiply. So common M, let's see here. Common M is 40 divided by sign capital M, but we're trying to find capital M, so we don't have that value. N is common N. I'm going to make sure I say capital or common so we can follow along better. Common N is 37 divided by sign capital N, which is 32 degrees. So I suggest before we cross multiply, let's find what? Sine 32 on our calculator. We should probably do that and then cross multiply, right? So I probably have some space up here. So 40 divided by sine capital M is equal to 37 divided by, I'm going to work out sine 32 and go to 3 decimal places. Sine 32 is 0.5. Now, if you go to 2 decimal, on the calculator, you're seeing 0.5299. If you go to 3 decimal places, sorry, you're going to end up adding 1 to the 9, which means you have to add 1 to the 2. So it's 0.53. You can put a 0 here, but it's not going to make a difference, right? But if you want to be super accurate, you can put in the 0 here. cross multiply. So let's do that now. Get a different color. So you end up with 37 multiplied by sine capital M and 40 by 0.53. 40 multiplied by 0.53. I'm getting 21.2. But we're not finished because we want to solve for M, capital M specifically. Throw across the multiply, you're going to get what? A divide. So you end up with sine capital M. Let's divide 21.2 by 37. 21.2 divided by 37 is 0.573. If we go to 3 decimal places, which is what I recommend, we want to solve for capital M. So throw across sine, we're going to get what? Sine inverse 0.573. So capital M, let me type it in here, second function sine 0.573. I'm getting 34.9. If remember, the final answer, we could go to 2 decimal places, 6 degrees. A lot of people are asking me what units we should put. Isn't M an angle? So angles are measured in degrees. Okay? If you put your final answer to 3 decimal places, obviously it's still correct. But 34.9 anything, I'm concerned it's correct. Okay? So look for your mistakes, right? All the working is clear on the board. This is just a revision question from last week. I wanted to do one before we do the other rule today. The cosine rule, the one, this is the guy I want to deal with today. Okay. Because last week we spent an hour and a half, a little more than an hour and a half on the sine rule. Right, so take 20 seconds, take down whatever you need to take down, and we will be moving. All right, so before we move on to the hard cosine rule, I want everyone to choose 3 letters, any 3 letters. Remember, you can only collect crystals of your team color. Whoever has the most crystals wins at the end of class. So any 3 letters, let me know on the chat. You'll see the little war, the little battle going on in the background there with the insect going. I personally like the green team, but I can't play because I know all the others. So. All right, let's see if you guys got lucky. Let's see how much crystals of your team color you got. Right, let me know how much crystals you got. Remember, if you're on team blue, you can only collect. Somebody said it got 1. Somebody got 2. All right, let's move on. Keep track and write down how much crystals you got. I don't know how the person got 3 crystals. I really don't know. They had to choose D, F, and G. I guess so. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's go. All right, so let's move to the different rule now, the cosine rule. Now, the cosine rule, you can use it under specific conditions. You can use it if, I'll put a little arrow here, if you're given 2 sides and the angle in between the 2 sides. Don't mix it up with this ruler. And I know where the 2 arrows are, the rules look almost the same. But the one on top is if you're given 2 sides and an angle opposite to one of the given sides. This new condition only applies if the angle is in between the 2 sides, not opposite to one of the sides. And The other one, you can use it if you are given all three sides of the triangle. So once I give you the length of all three sides, you can use that formula, right? But as you all saw from last week, me talking about the formula doesn't do much. You actually have to practice a question on it. Now, I want you all to note something about the formula. You notice if you have common A here, the last letter is the capital version. So if I have common A here, the last letter will be capital A. If here was common P, the last letter will be capital P. Once again, common letters represent the length of sides. Capital letters represent angles. And you notice all the other letters go in between. If I have common A here and capital A here, all the other common letters are not A. It's every other common letter in the triangle, right? So you have to look for a pattern, right? You just have to look for a pattern. Right. So let me develop a question here for you guys. We're going to practice the first one on top. So I don't want to use A, B, and C. I'm going to use P, Q, and R, right? Capital P, capital Q, capital R. Draw the diagram, right? And I'm going to give you two sides and an angle in between the two sides. So let here be 16 meters. Let here be 31 meters. And the angle in between, let's put it as 68 degrees. Draw that and wait on me. Well, at least put in the common letters. And the aim of the question is to find this question mark over here. All right, so let's get started on this question. So we have to find, well, let's put in our common letters and let's see what we have to find. If here's capital R, then over here is common R. If over here is capital P, over here is common P. If over here is capital Q, over here is common Q. So it seems to me they gave us the length of two sides and the angle in between those two given sides. You can clearly see that 68 is living in between the 16 and 31 meters. And they want us to find common R. So let's follow the format. Let's follow the format of this question, okay? If they want us to find common R, right? I'm going to write it back properly here. If they want us to find R, we put R squared here. All the other common letters have to be what? Everything but R. What are the two other letters other than R? P and Q. Now, it doesn't matter if you put the P first or the Q first, but you all know me, right? I like to go in alphabetical order. So it's going to be p squared, common p squared plus common q squared minus open brackets 2. If you have P and Q here, like how you have B and C, you notice B and C gets repeated inside here, but without the squares. So if it's P and Q, it's multiplied by P, multiplied by Q, multiplied by cosine. Who can tell me what letter to put here in the formula? What letter to put here? Capital R. Remember we said if you have common A here, the last letter is going to be capital version. So if I have common R, then the last letter is going to be capital R. And put your degrees here, right? We're going to do more than one practice question, guys. Don't worry. I'm going to make sure I do plenty. So that's the formula we are going to use to find common R. So I'm just going to write it back here a little bit. I have more space now. R squared is equal to P squared plus Q squared minus open brackets 2 multiplied by P multiplied by Q multiplied by cosine R. Now here, don't rush and do it, right? I want you all to do this with me. Remember, the aim of the question is to find common R, not R squared. This formula is making us find R squared. I will show you how to deal with that little problem. So let's substitute in the values. Remember, common P is 31, common Q is 16. So all I'm going to do is replace what? The P's and Q's with 16 and 31. And then I'm going to replace capital R with how much? Capital R is 68. So watch me here. Common P is 31 squared plus 16 squared minus, you have to put open brackets. This formula will not work without the brackets. 2 multiplied by how much is common P? 31. How much is common Q? 16 multiplied by cosine 68 degrees. Now, here's what I want everyone to do. And listen to the instructions properly. You can actually type in this straight on your calculator. Your calculator is going to do all the hard work. But when you're typing it in, please put the open brackets here and close brackets and then press equal. So you're typing in 31 squared plus 16 squared minus open brackets. You're typing this whole thing exact 68, close brackets and press equal and tell me what you get. Go to 3 decimal places. It takes a little bit of practice, but try not to miss anything, right? What I am seeing on my calculator, 845.39, well, 0 if you go to 3 decimal places, right? Michaela, check it back. It's 390. I don't want you to do it piece by piece on the calculator. I want you to write this long sentence straight on the calculator, and you'll see exactly the same value I have. We are not finished with the question, because the question asks us to find what? R. This question gave us the value of R squared. So if we want to find R alone, we throw across the squared. And in maths, when you throw across squared, you get the opposite, right? Square root 85.39. Clear your calculator, press square root, and type in exactly 845.39. Right? 845.390 to the power 0.5. And I'm getting roughly 29.07559. I know you're going to round it off. Yes, that's okay. 29.08 meters. Right? If you go to 3, 29.0 anything, right? I'm not going to fight too much, right? Too much about the decimal. ready to draw another triangle, right? I'm gonna change up the letters, obviously. I don't want to keep using the same letters. So how about we choose capital X, Y, and capital Z. Now, when I write a Z, I just put a little slash here so it doesn't look like a 2, right? You know, some people have bad handwriting and a Z and a 2 could look almost the same, right? So I'm going to put here as 22 meters. Over here is 31 meters. And the angle in between, let's call it 17 degrees. The aim of the question is to find this side here, XZ. Notice I gave you the length of two sides and an angle is living in between those two sides. You can definitely use this rule to your advantage. Right? Draw it and we will, if for those who want to take a shot at developing the formula, feel free. For those who, still a little confused, you can just wait on me. Letters. So I already established we could use the rule because we have two sides and the angle in between. So if he has capital Y, the side we are trying to find is common Y. If he has capital Z, over here is common Z. If he has capital X, over here is common X. I trust everyone has the common letters down. So we want to find Y. So according to the formula, if we put whatever we're trying to find is Y squared, the other two letters will go in between. So the other two letters are X and Z. The truth is, it really don't matter if you put the X first or the Z first, but I like to go in alphabetical order. So it's going to be X squared plus Z squared. All of these are common letters, by the way. 2 multiply. If you have common X here, you put back the X and the Z here. Multiply by cosine. If here's common Y, the last letter will be the capital version of that. How much? Well, one person sent it on the chat, but how about the rest of you guys? Did you all have that in your books? That exact formula. I'm going to write it back here a little bit bigger. It's kind of cramped on that end. Right. Do yourself a favor. Start substituting in the relevant letters with the relevant values. So take a minute, right? Once again, it don't matter if you get it wrong. You just need to try. I know I'm not responding to everyone, but I'm reading as much as I can. I am reading the chat as much as I can. 31 squared plus 22 squared minus open brackets 2 by 31 multiplied by 22 multiplied by cosine, capital Y is 17 degrees. So like I said, it's just to type in this straight on your calculator, right? Let's see. 31 squared plus 22 squared minus open brackets 2 multiply by 31 by 22, right? Right? All you're doing is typing is straight on. You're physically just pressing the cosine button and typing in 17 after you press. There's a button called cosine on your calculator, right? You're pressing cosine, type in 17 and close the brackets. There's no need to type in the degrees sign. In fact, there's no degrees button on your calculator, all right? So when you're typing this straight on your calculator, right? I am getting 140.600, something like that, right? Right? Remember, the value of capital Y is 17. That is how I knew to replace Y with 17. Remember, once again, guys, right? Capital letters represent angles. I'll put in a little arrow here, right? So you remember y is 17, okay? Capital Y to be precise. Great. So is the question finished there? I don't think so, right? Because we want to find common y. We don't care about y squared. I want to know the value of y. So just like in the last question, you always end up doing this in this particular question. You throw across the squared to get square root. So when you square root that, there's now 140.600, and I square root that. Real people got it correct. Real, right? 11.857. I know I tell you guys you can round off here. What? Let me just, how you say? The final answer, obviously, if you want to go to two decimal places, right? So I guess 11.8 anything, I'll be considering it correct today, right? Three more left. Let's try, I don't want to try A, B, and C. Hang on, let's try A, B, and C. No, nothing wrong with trying A, B, and C. A, B, and C. So let's say we have a large angle here. Let's say it's 120 degrees. Here is 30 meters, and over here is 40 meters. I want you all to find this here. So it's clearly two sides and the angle in between. So it's two sides and the angle in between. So I know we could use what? This version of the cosine rule. All right. So here's common B. This is what we want to find because the question mark is by common B. Here's C and here's common A. We want to build a formula for common B. So by now, everyone should be getting the hang of it. So I'm hoping we have this formula. How much people had that formula? And you get marks for writing down the correct version of the formula. So you can't just have it in your head, right? You have to write it down to make sure you get your marks for it. Great. Let's start substituting in the values. B squared is equal, well, A is how much? 40, and C is 30, and capital B is 120. So 40 squared plus 30 squared, it's 2 multiplied by 40 by 30 by cosine 120. Now, I just want to put this one question. Well, the 2 is just part of the formula, right? It's always going to be there in the formula, right? So it's just part of the formula. So let's type in this whole thing straight on the calculator. And let's see if I get anything here. 40 squared plus 30 squared minus open brackets 2 by 40 by 30 by cosine 120 close brackets. And we got a nice value this time, man. So anybody saw this exactly on the calculator? We didn't even, it was a real nice value. No decimal places this time, right? Now, obviously, we don't care for B squared. We want B. So we throw across the square to get what? Square root. And when we square root that, we're going to get 60.8276. And I know I'm going to round it off. I said you can round off your final answer to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to 60.83. Obviously, if you put 828, like you go to 3 decimal places, obviously it's still correct, right? Right. So you notice in all the questions so far, we were finding what? A missing side. You realize that, right? All 3 questions we just did. we were trying to find a common letter. This formula is to find what? A missing side, because common letters represent sides. Let's try the other formula now, where we have to find a missing angle, right? To find a missing angle if you are given all three sides of a triangle, right? This is a different version of the cosine rule, and it's pretty easy. You always see a pattern here. If you have capital A here, the last letter, this be the common version of that letter. So if here was capital P, or the last letter on top would be common P. All the other letters go in between, okay? And yes, you're seeing right, this is a big brackets here, and this is cos inverse, not regular boring cos inverse. That's where you have to press the second function or shift button. Right, now, unfortunately, the second formula, you know the first formula, we gotta type in the whole thing straight on your calculator. The second one, you can't type it in straight on your calculator, okay? Now, some calculators is give the answer in decimals, and some people get it in surd. So I believe some people getting this for the answer. There's something called an SD button. We'll take the surd and convert it to a decimal. So if you press the SD button, it will convert it to 60.83, the SD button. All right, so let's try this one here. Let's try this one. Right. The second one will give you all a little bit of problems at first, right? But we will get through. Let's put in three letters here. Let's put in K, L, and M. I don't think we use those as yet. Let here be 20 meters. Let here be 12 meters. And let me see here. Let here be 12. Let here be 13 meters. Okay. All right. Everyone draw that triangle then. And the aim of the question is to find this angle here. We want to find angle L. Formula. This formula says we could use it if we're given the length of all three sides. I believe it's clear as day. We have the length of all three sides. So we want to find capital L. So if you want to find capital L, you put L is equal to cosine inverse, open brackets. So inside these big brackets, we have to put the letters, right? These two letters are the letters other than the one outside here. And inside the brackets, look at it properly here. Only common letters could go inside here. So we know if over here is capital L, the last letter will be common L squared, and it have a minus sign here. All the other letters will go in between. Now, if here's capital K, over here is common K, common M, common L. Tell me if this makes sense. M squared plus N squared, and that's following the format of the formula. It have a 2 underneath here, and how you have B and C here, they get repeated underneath here without the squares. Does that make sense? Look at it here. Over here is capital L, the last letter is common L. And the other letters who is not L goes into the rest of these spaces to fill the letters. So I made a mistake, sorry. It's L. Oh, it's M and K. Oh, sorry. You all, at least you are paying attention. I can't see nothing. So it's K. My mistake, guys. It's K. Thank you for letting me know. I have no N in this question. It's K, L, and M. All right, cool. So now it's just to substitute in the values. So let's substitute in the values, right? I'm going to take a little bit of headache here. That's somewhere. Where I'm going to write it underneath, yes. So it's m squared plus k squared minus L squared. M is how much? 20 squared. K squared, common k, is 12 squared minus L squared, 13 squared. Using a different color for the underneath. 2 by common m is how much? 20. And common k is 12. All I did was replace the letters with the values. Right. Now, here's what I want you to do. You cannot work out this straight on your calculator. You have to do this piece by piece. I want everyone to work out the top, the red part. Just work out the red part and tell me what the answer for the red part is. What's the answer for the red part? That's just the top. I only care about the top part. 20 squared plus 12 squared minus 13 squared. 20 squared plus 12 squared minus 13 squared. I'm getting 375. Write it down, look here. For the top, when I work it out, I get 375. Work out the underneath. Clear your calculator and work out the underneath. The blue part, 2 by 20 by 12. I'm getting 480. Take down up to there. I worked out the top. I work out the underneath. I ain't playing no hero with this formula. Do me a favor now. Divide the red value by the blue value and round off the answer. I'm saying it once. 3 decimal places. You don't have to put the brackets now. After you divide it, the brackets could disappear. We don't need the brackets anymore. Right? I'm getting 0.781. Finish off the question now. Cos inverse 0.781 and you're done with the question. That is it. You're done. Right? Second function, cosine 0.781. And I'm seeing this. 38.6. If you go, remember your final answer, you could go to 2 decimal places if you wish. And I'm getting 38.65 to 2 decimal places. Right? To me, this is still easier than the sine rule. I still prefer. Because you notice the cosine rule have no cross multiplication in it. No major set of transposing and whatnot. You're basically just using the formula as it is in front of you. And to me, that makes it easier. Right? Don't worry, we're going to try another one. We'll try another one. Right? Try some other letters. Let's choose P, Q, and R. Right? Let's use here as 25 meters. Here's 15 meters. And here as 17 meters. Just want to make sure that will work out. Just now, guys, I'm going to put it as 13 here. I think 13 is a better value for this question. I try to make sure we don't get an error. Right. It will work. And I want you all to find this angle here. Angle capital P. You notice we have the length of all 3 sides. And we want to find angle P. So we know it's this formula. give it a try, right? You will end up with something kind of strange in the question. So if you're doing the question and you see something strange happening in the calculations, you're on the right track. Let me put in the common letters. Here's common P, here's common R, here's common Q. We want to find capital P. So I'm going to trust everyone at least has the formula correct. You can compare it to this formula here. Now, it don't matter if you put square brackets or curved brackets, right? I actually prefer the square brackets, okay? So we know the last letter is going to be common P squared, because if we're trying to find capital P, the last letter on top is common P. The other two letters are P, Q, and R. So it's going to be Q squared plus R squared minus, and it's following the format. Underneath is 2Q by R. I have the formula correct there, guys. I have the formula. I hope I have it correct. Right. Let's substitute in some values here. Q, 13 squared plus 15 squared minus 25 squared. Underneath is 2 by 13 by 15. Great. We're going to work out the top, then we're going to work out the underneath, and then divide. 13 squared plus 15 squared minus 25 squared. On top, I am seeing minus 231. You all can agree with that? Minus 231. Great. Underneath, 2 by just now, 2 by 13 by 15. I'm getting 390. A lot of people. Right? Remember, according to the formula, the other two letters other than P go here. So if you put capital P here, the Q and the R, that's the only other two letters go over here. And Q is 13 and R is 15. So that's why I put 13 and 15 here. Great. Let's divide it, and we're gonna get negative, because we take it a negative and dividing it by a positive, right? So 231, well, minus 231 divided by 390, I am getting minus 0.592. Now you gotta be careful when you're typing in this on your calculator. Let me explain. This minus sign is not the normal minus sign. On your the sharp calculators, you will see this button. Look for this button, a plus or minus button. And on the Casio calculators, you will see a minus button in brackets. You're not using a regular boring minus sign. On the sharp calculator, you have to press second function cosine. And then you press the plus or minus button. That will give you a special minus sign here. And you type in 0.592. On your Casio calculators, you have to press the special minus sign. I don't know about the Texas Instrument calculators. I'm not familiar with those. Right? So type in second function cosine 0.592, right? And you're supposed to see this on your calculator, 126.299 degrees, right? 126.30 degrees if you go to 2 decimal places, right? Make sure you're seeing 126 point something, right? But you must have a minus sign here. Remember, you can't just ignore the minus sign like it's not important. Remember, minus 0.592 is totally different from the positive version. So take a few seconds, make sure the answer appears on your brain relax. All right, so let me see. Team orange and green get to pick 2 letters. So remember for at the beginning of class, you chose a team. So team orange and green can choose any 2 letters. Every other team only gets 1 letter. So I guess there's a little bit of favoritism here for orange and green. So don't worry, the other teams will get, favoritism later on. Right? So red, blue, and black, you only get 1 letter on board. Let's see what you guys got. If you chose A, those are the selections of gems, right? So if you chose A and you're on team, the orange team, you get 4 oranges, right? B selection, D selection, and D. Looks like blue was real popular in this one. Right, so count up how much gems your team got, right? Remember, you can only collect gems of your particular team color. Give me a total, give me a total. And for those who didn't get anything, don't worry. Just have a look at the big alien there. He dropped some gems. Look over here at the right-hand side of the screen, bottom. He dropped a orange, 2 green, and a black. So I hope that further helps you all out. Right? Here, red got real mistreated this round. Red was real under. Sorry, team red. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Right. So for those who want, I think it's a good idea to write down the question, right? And remember last week, I told you all that if they put 3 letters and say find angle ACB, it's always the middle letter they're referring to. So in this question, they're asking you to find this angle. I want you all to figure out which rule we have to use for this one. The examiner isn't going to tell you which rule. Which rule? Is it going to be the sine rule or one of the cosine rules? Right? Right. But here what? I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. You use your confidence and you go through with the question and you submit an answer. Right? And I have to move a little faster this rounds, right? Because I want to finish at least a couple of questions. Which rule? You notice that you were given the length of 2 sides, the 5 and the 9, and the 24 was opposite to one of the sides. Isn't that the 2 sides and an angle? So it's what? The sine rule. It is the sine rule, right? And I put in the common letters for you already. So, but which letter useless, by the way, in this question? Now that we know it's the sine rule, which one useless? Right, and everyone is telling me it's A, because they ain't giving no information on capital A or common A, and they don't even want you to find A. In fact, they want you to find capital C. So I hope you all threw away A and only kept the B and the C. Right? 1 minute, and I'm going to jump in to work it out. Like I said, I'm pushing up the pace on the question. But let me just see. Let's just see. Next thing you know, I wrong. Next thing you know, I wrong. So we keep in B and C. So it's common B divided by capital B and common C divided by capital C. Like I said, we threw in away the A's. So let's substitute in the values here. Common B is how much? 5. I have it here. Sine capital B is 24 degrees. Remember, capital letters represent angles. Common C, where common C is? Common C is 9, and then you have sine capital C. I trust everyone has up to there. And before we cross multiply, I think we should find what first? Sine 24. Sine 24 to 3 decimal places is 0.407 if we go to 3 decimal places. Let's cross multiply. You have 5 multiplied by sine C, and then 9 by 0.407. 9 multiplied by 0.407 is 3.663. The aim of the question is to solve for C. Throw across Mr. 5, you get what? A divide. I just put in the answer here because I run out of space there. So 3.663 divided by 5 to 3 decimal places, it's 0.733 if we go to 3 decimal places. So if sine C is equal to this, then we throw across the sign to get what? Sine inverse 0.733. And this will give us how much degrees? Second function, sine, let me see, 0.733. I'm getting 47.14 if we round off our final answer to 2 decimal places. But here, I'm not going to argue about it too much. 47 point anything, you're correct. Right, some people forgot the final step of throwing across the sign. Remember, we want to find angle C. We want C alone, right? Oh, they said the 3 significant. Oh, if this right. Okay, the question said the 3 significant figures. So if they want 3 significant figures, they only want the first 3 values. So I forgot to read that. So it will be 47.1 degrees. Right. Look for your mistakes. Look for your mistakes. Right. But the class was split half. Not everyone got the 47 point something, right? Like I said, 47 point anything, take it as correct. All right, so let's try another question, right? Right. So to save time in the question, right? You don't need to take down the wording, right? All you already need to do is draw this diagram. You don't have to take down the wording. And they want you to find the length of AB, right? So just put a question mark by AB. I wonder which rule will this one be? On this one. So we throw in away B because they give us no information on B. They don't even want us to find what B. So you keep in the A's and the C's. So it's A divided by sine capital A is equal to C. Right, so just a matter of substituting in your values. Common A is 10.2. Sine capital A, where capital A? That's 1 to the 4 degrees. Common C. Oh, we don't know common C, right? But we do know capital C. So my suggestion is before you cross multiply, find sine 1 to the 4 and sine 28. And then cross multiply. See if you can take it from there. Right, so I just want to find sine 1 to the 4 and sine 28 here, and then I'll write it over here, right? Actually, I could just write it here one time. That's not. Sine 1 to the 4. 0.719 and sine 28, 0.469. That is what I'm seeing on my calculator, 0.469. Right. Let's cross multiply. C, well, here you get 0.719 multiplied by C. Can't really do much there. And 10.2 by 0.469. 10.2 multiplied by 0.469. I am getting 4.784 if I go to 3 decimal places. Throw across and multiply, you're going to get what? A divide. 4.784 divided by 0.719. I'm getting 6.65. Well, if you go to 2 decimal places, right? But I think to 3 significant figures. So 6.65 is what I'm getting for my final answer, right? 6.6 anything. Right? Look for your mistakes. Well, a lot of people did get it, right? Latoya, you saw a mistake by chance? Class is almost over, guys. I know it's almost over. All right, so let's see. Oh, this is a fun one. We're gonna get a vote now on the team colors. So it have 5 teams, right? You're gonna take a class poll. The team with the color with the highest amount of members gets 8 extra gems of your choice. And the least popular team gets 4 extra gems. Seems like a good deal. So let's give a few seconds. All right, vote, guys, vote. It's on the screen. I'll show you the results now. The most popular team gets 8 gems. Least popular gets 4. You have to vote on the chat or on the poll itself. You don't have to send your answer in the chat. On the screen, use poll. Let's see. Let's see. One gonna win you. A close call, okay, guys. A close call. All right, I'm gonna close off the polls there, guys. Take a few 10, 3 more seconds. I'm gonna close off the polls. Sharing the results. You all seeing the results here, guys? The most popular team is the blue team. So everybody in the blue team adding 8 gems. The blue team is the most popular team. The least popular team is the orange team. So the orange team gets 4 gems. Right? Right. So that was pretty close though. But the blue and the red were the most popular, I think. The black and red, but nobody liked the orange. All right. So guys, I know it's coming close to the end of class there, right? So we're gonna hold off class there today. Give me a checkup now on how much gems you had, and you're free to leave. And Blake, Stefan, remember you have to stay back, right? Stefan, right? Have a good evening, guys. Have a good evening. 14, Angela. A lot of gems. I guess he was on TV. No problem, Angelina. Good luck. Better luck next time. All right, Stefan, you there? Everyone else is free to leave, huh? Right, so oh.